Hi guys, it's Omega, and I thought I'd come on today and share with you what I'm doing in my craft room. So today I'm making a wedding card, and while I was at it, I decided I would make a couple more. And I just wanted to share with you all the process, and also I wanted to share a tip regarding embossing folders. When you're embossing and sometimes run into the problem of the paper tearing. And I know that happens sometimes with certain cardstock. And what I have done, once I started doing it, I just do it all the time. And that's where you would mist the paper before you put it in the embossing folder, and that works out really, really great. But anyway, I'll show you that at the end of the video. But let me just share with you this particular card, and I'll show you what I used to make this card, the embossing folder and the dies. So this one is, and I have this on top here because I'm going to show you, I'm kind of deciding on which one I'm going to do, but I think I've already made up my mind. But so this card has several layers here. So there's the blue layer, the wedding colors has blue. And I don't know what tone of blue actually, so I just kind of went with a light blue because it's spring, and I figured that's kind of a spring color. So I layered the blue cardstock and then the embossing folder. So this particular embossing folder is a Anna Griffin embossing folder. I love, love, love the design. It's called Feather Illusion is the name of this embossing folder. Makes a beautiful design. In fact, I have another one here embossed. That is so, so pretty. Want to get a little closer so you can really see that. I love that one. So that is the background there. And then I used my dies. Let me show you the dies that I used. This die set is from Just Right Stamps. And I used, of course, the big die background. And then I used two of the center. I didn't use the heart one. That would be pretty, but I didn't want to go to that level of layers. But I'll show you what I ended up doing. And then for the one square, not square, but the rectangle here, I actually popped it up on Fun Foam, and I'll show you all that in a minute. And these have that little stitch pattern in the dies. So this one is also by Just Right. I love these sets because they have so many dies in them. And so these are the dies that I use. So let me show you the card. So again, the cardstock in blue with the Feather Illusions embossing folder. Then the stitched rectangle there. And then that background die here. This one in white. Then what I did is I embossed, this is the next layer, I embossed that with some fine kind of off-white embossing powder. And to be honest, I don't really like that. To me, the cardstock is too light for a white emboss. And I decided to stamp the next layer, this one here. I've been going back and forth trying to decide if I like this better. And I actually kind of like this better because it does add that next layer and a bit more color, you know. I finally settled on this ink pad by Stampin' Up. It's called Soft Sky, and it ended up being the most perfect match for that. So I think I'm going to use the white label on this card, but it was really fun to put together. So what I did is I decided to go ahead and make a couple more because you know this is the season for weddings. And what I'm going to do is put this one together here with you all. and show you a little tip that I do sometimes when I'm cutting out my layers. You can sometimes cut the center out that you're going to use and still use the other part of that as a backing. Since it's not going to show, there's going to be something in front of it. I really think that's a nice tip when you're trying to stretch your supplies. Then again, I did emboss that. This one looks a little better to me than the other. However, I still like the label stamped in the color of the card. So I think I'm going to end up using that. But I'm going to put this one together with you all so you can see my whole step-by-step process. So what I did here is, these are my layers. And let me get my, okay, so these are my layers, and I am going to put this together with you all. So this is my cardstock. I used, this is Gina K's cardstock, the heavy weight. I really love it because it's so smooth, but it's very sturdy, and I love that cardstock. And I'm going to, this one happens to be Stampin' Up. I honestly don't remember the name of the color. I might have it here, the ink pad. The stamp pad I used for this is the Pearl Pizzazz, and the paper is Pearl Pizzazz. I'm sorry, Pear Pizzazz is the color. I am so sorry, guys. But anyway, again, cut out the center, but you can still use the, outside of that, because only a very small part of the, the background here is going to be showing. So I think that is a good way to stretch your materials. So we're going to put that down as the base. I love leaving a little white border around. Alrighty, so I got that layer down. And then I'm going to put this layer down. Now this particular embossing folder is the Anna Griffin, again it's a Cuttlebug folder, Anna Griffin Fluted Damask. It's called Fluted Damask. And that is one that I am using on this particular card. This is the embossed design, just so you can see it up close. Again, I misted that before I ran it through. It makes a really deep, crisp impression, and it does not tear the paper at all. Because this is a lighter weight of paper, so I just love that. Now, what I also did on this particular one is I cut this down a little more to leave just a little more color around the border. Let me get focused here. So I'm going to have a little more color around the border, but we're going to lay that layer down next. Now, one thing with your embossed edges, sometimes it does ruffle a little bit. So make sure you get your tape runner or whatever you're using to put your, uh-oh, that just broke. I just ran out of tape. So I'm going to have to use something else. Make sure that you get close to the edge so that that ruffling, you can make sure it's well seated on your card. Okay, so I'm going to get that layer down, and again I made it where there's a little more color around the edge of this one. I just took in about 1/8 of an inch more, or maybe even less than that, but it's going to give a little more color around that edge. Now when I put mine down, I turn it over and then I want to press really good. You're not going to do anything to that embossed texture, but I just want to make sure that I've got my layers down. So that is my next layer. Then what I'm going to do is, this is some of that fun foam. I'm going to put that on the back of this next layer here. And what I do is use a little bit of glossy accents or a glue like that. I actually have another glue that's not glossy accents, and I think I'll use it. This particular glue is actually sold at, let's see, AC Moore's where I get it. And it's called Triple Thick. And it is just like Crystal Accents, or Glossy Accents rather. But it's much, much cheaper. In fact, I got another bottle of it in the 8-ounce size for a refill. And it's just like it. This nozzle just happens to be a little thinner than my Glossy Accents rather. And I just want to make sure I get a thin line of glue on my cardstock as well as my foam. So what I'm going to do is put my glue down on my cardstock backing. Okay, and so I'm going to get this down just so my card has a little bit of dimension and have the one layer popped up a little bit. So that's on the back of my cardstock there. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was so out of focus. Sorry about that. Then I am going to put the same glue on the back here. So you see, since that nothing is showing, it doesn't hurt at all for that center to be missing underneath. So that's my next layer on this card. I want to make sure I have it straight. Alrighty, that will set up and be a perfect layer there. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my, get this layer down. And I do use my same glue. Just put that on the back here. So I'm going to get that layer down. I love cards with layers. It's just so, so pretty. Okay, we have that layer down. And isn't that so pretty so far? Make sure I'm opening this on the right side. I don't want to put it on upside down. Then this was the layer that I had embossed, and again I just really like it much better. I'm going to put tape on this layer. I think I like it much better with the stamped with the stamped label. Sorry. So let me just show you that. That's what it looks like embossed. And I think I actually have it a little bit crooked also. Yeah, it is a little bit crooked. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use this. I just like the fact that it adds another layer. And I just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. So that is my card. On this one here, I put pearls. I think on this one, I'm going to use rhinestones. So I have some rhinestones here. These. I think I'm going to use rhinestones on this one and see how that looks. Well, whether it looks good or not, that's what I'm going to use. But I think it's going to be really pretty. So what I'm going to do, there are little circles in certain areas, and I think that's a good place for the rhinestones to sit and the pearls to sit on my other card. So I'm using kind of a medium-sized one in these larger spots. That also helps the frilly part of the card stay down a little better. Having those rhinestones there, that is so pretty. And I'll show you in just a minute once I get them all adhered to the card. Then I'm going to use some smaller ones in the other areas. Don't forget, at the end of the video, I'm sharing with you guys about misting your cardstock to show you how to get a really good, deep, even impression on your embossing without the paper tearing. One more rhinestone and I think I've got it. There we go. Okay, so make sure those are all down really good. Ah, that's so pretty. Very pretty. So there's my finished card. On this one, I love how it turned out. Very pretty. So there's the different layers. You have that pop-up. And then inside, of course, I still need to do my stamping, but I'm going to leave that for later. Cards, one is for my niece. The other two, this one here, I think I'm going to put pearls on it as well. But that's what I have for today. These will be my two, that I'll have for standby this wedding season. So I decided to go ahead and make up a few so I'll have extras. And thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the embossing tip. It's coming up, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. So here is the tip or the secret in doing embossing. Getting a really good deep impression on your paper. And it doesn't matter the paper, because now I do it almost all the time, because it simply makes the best impression without paper tearing. Because if you've noticed, sometimes you'll run paper through an embossing folder and it will tear. So there's one way you can do it, is run two sheets, especially if it's a thin cardstock. Run two sheets through at the same time. And the thing that you'll get there, though, is one will have a little bit heavier impression than the other. So I like doing them one at a time. And what you need to do is use a mister. This is one of the mini misters. Just has plain water in it. You could use water or alcohol, because alcohol dries quickly. But this, it still dries very quickly. The mini mister, this is the one by Ranger. Just clear water in there. And what I'm going to do is spritz the cardstock. And this is probably about a 65 weight cardstock. And you'll notice it'll curl a little bit. I might have saturated that one too much. So what I'm going to do is put this against another one. I'm going to run two of them through. And that way you can see how really nice these impressions come out. So I'm going to run it through this embossing folder. This is an Anna Griffin embossing folder called Pirouette. Beautiful embossing folder. So 5x7 size. And I'm going to run it through my Cuttlebug. And it's going to give me a really nice, deep impression. And I'm going to roll it backward again through this way. And then, let me show you the impression. It's going to be gorgeous. And that way you get a gorgeous, deep, even impression and no tearing whatsoever. And it really only takes seconds to dry. This will dry in just a little while. I'm going to run through another one. This one is called Feather Illusion, and I love this one. It's by Anna Griffin as well. Now, I had kind of rubbed the other card against this one, but I'm going to go ahead and spritz this one again just to make sure it's good. And it doesn't have to be saturated. Really, it just needs to be damp. But I got all this kind of stuff on my table. Again, I'm going to put it in the middle of the embossing folder here. Run that through. And the sandwich on the Cuttlebug is the A plate, your 2 B plates with the embossing folder between. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. So your A plate, your 2 B plates, and the embossing folder in between. And we're going to run this one through. And run it back. I just do that to make sure it's a good even impression. And you are going to love this one. Once again, a very beautiful emboss, even impression, gorgeous out of that embossing folder. So that's what I'm using as a background for the cards that I'm making today. Thank you guys.